Kenya's political ground is shifting. The party that defined opposition politics for 2 decades is now fighting itself. Following the death of its founder, ODM stands split down the middle, not by outsiders, but from within. 2 factions, 2 ideologies, 2 visions for 2027. One side says cooperate with government for development and stability. The other says stand firm, resist, and reclaim the party's reformist soul. But this is no longer just a boardroom disagreement. In Kitangela, a rally ends in chaos. Tear gas fills the air. Gunshots ring out. And a young man, Vincent Ayamo, loses his life. In Vihiga, another clash turns deadly. In Siaya and Kakamega, convoys are stormed, property destroyed. Is this political competition or political collapse? And as ODM battles internally, another storm is brewing. The IBC won 63.9 billion Kenya shillings to run the 2027 election. Treasury says that's extravagant. Lawmakers call it wasteful. The commission warns of technological failure, delayed voter registration, and unpaid debts if funding falls short. Are we investing in democracy or arguing that over its price tag? Tonight, we ask, can a divided opposition guarantee accountability? Is Kenya prepared for credible 2027 elections? And are we drifting towards instability while pretending all is well? This is more than party politics. This is about strength of our institutions, the credibility of our elections, the future of our democracy. The elections budget under siege and 2027 fast approaching. The question is simple. Will the system hold? Good evening. My name is Martin Masharia. This is The Insight, a show that comes to you every Tuesday, 9 p.m. only on EBN television. Of course, this particular morning, I'm joined by Professor Edwin Wanjawa, who is a lecturer at PWANI University. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And of course, many thanks for making time to be with us here this particular evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, start engaging us on our socials at EBN TV Kenya. We're live on Facebook and as well as on YouTube. And you can as well send us your feedback through our SMS line. That is to 3059. Now, Mr. Wanjawa, even as we build the basis of this particular conversation, ODM is actually built on a one-towering figure. And now that, the late former Raila Odinga is gone, is the party facing identity crisis or is it facing a survival crisis?
Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah. ODM, as the members of ODM would like to say, is the largest party in Kenya. And sometimes they say it's the largest party south of Sahara and north of Limpopo. Yes, ODM is facing a new challenge. I think ODM for a long time, over the last 20 years, has survived on the shoulders of Baba, has survived on the charisma of Baba. I think for a long time, Baba was the party, and Baba was the institution, and Baba was the ideology. I think for the very first time in the life of ODM, they are now faced with a challenge where institutions have to work. I think the challenge that ODM has is a good challenge. I think it's a challenge that I think portends the future of party politics in Kenya. Can we grow our political parties? Can we grow institutions? Can our institutions outlive, as they're supposed to, outlive the persons that find them? So ODM was founded by Baba, but I think it's an opportunity for ODM, for political parties, to survive beyond their founder members. It's a question of whether, as Kenyans, whether as Democrats, whether we are building institutions or we are building personalities.
All right. Yes. And we've seen 2 factions in the ODM. We've seen the Linda Mwananchi faction that is led by Edwin Sifuna, the senator from Nairobi, and as well as the Linda Ground faction led by their party leader, Oburu Oginga. Now, one would ask the question, is this an ideological disagreement or is it a power struggle? Because we've heard from the party leader actually saying that they want power.
I wish I could call it an ideological fight. Then that will make it possible for us to discuss theory and to discuss perspectives. Unfortunately, this is a power struggle. I think on one end, you have a faction that is saying, how do we get power? And another faction is saying, what is power for? And so for me, I see a faction that is saying, led by Oburu Oginga, a faction that is saying, I think we are now close to the sanctums of power. Why not just hold here? Another faction is saying, and I want to think that's what the faction that Sifuna and his team hold, another faction that is saying, what is power for? And so, to that point, therefore, it's just more than holding power. The question is, who is the life? Who is the life and blood of the party? Is it the leaders or is it the people? One faction thinks that they are closest to power, and all they need to do is hold ground. Another faction is saying we can rethink the ground, and to rethink the ground, we need to go to the people, we need to go to Wananchi.
All right, and one would ask the question then, opposition for the longest time has actually, stand for the ideologies of the Mwananchi. We actually saw during the past regimes, opposition were actually, leading in the protest, saying that, Mwananchi, I will remember that some other time leaders of the ODM were actually, wearing sufurias on their heads. And one then asked the question, has ODM actually lost its ideologies? Because what's bind ODM with the UDA, the party affiliated with the president, actually the 10-point agenda, which actually binds them with the ruling party. Now, one would ask the question, is ODM losing its ground?
Now, ODM as a party is not losing ground. I think ODM as a party stands for certain fundamentals. I think the question then to ask is, are the leaders spot on with the people? Because ODM has found its way as the party of the people, as the party that speaks the voice of the people. What we are having are leaders now who are speaking the language of power. When ODM came to power, ODM came to power to say that the vision is not important on its own. The vision is as important as the mission. And what is the mission? The mission is the people. Are we going the direction of the people? I think what we have, and I think what has changed in Kenya, what has changed in our democracy, is that the people have found their voice. And the people now know where they want to go. Unfortunately, we have got people in leadership today who are weaned on raw power, who assumes that people follow them rather than leaders following the people. What the people are saying now is that we know where it is that we want to go. And if we want to go where we are going, you have to follow us. I think that is what divides the two factions of ODM. One faction that says we know where the people want to go. Another faction that is saying, listen, can we ask the people where it is that they want to go and how it is that they want to go there? I think what we have today, and I want to look at it from a positive point of view, that the people are reclaiming their ground. I think the words in our constitution about we the people is no longer hollow. The people are now breathing life into those words. And I think going forward, leaders will have to learn the voice of the people. Leaders will have to learn where the people want to go. Leaders will have to learn that parties and democracy is about people and not about leaders.
Right, and of course, speaking about the two factions, we've actually seen rallies which were held in Kitengela, in Vihiga, Siaya, and some of those rallies actually ended with tear gas, gunfires, and death of, including Vincent Oyamo. Now, one will ask the question, what does this say about the political freedom in the country?
Now, I think what it says, and I think I've said this once before, is that we have a new constitution, but we have leaders who are stuck in the old constitution. Leaders who think that rules are there for their convenience. Leaders who are there and who think that their word is law and not the other way around. I think what we are seeing, therefore, is that I think the voice of the people has shaken leadership. The voice of the people is shaking powers that be. Unfortunately, leaders still assume that they can control the voice of the people using violence. They still think that they can confuse people by causing violence. But I think if you can borrow from the words of Sifuna when he said that this time around we are not running away, I think the people have realized that they are in charge. For a long time, the tail has been wagging the dog. The dog has realized that it is a bulldog. It is supposed to wag the tail. And I think leaders are going to have to learn that going forward, you're going to understand the people, that going forward, you're going to respond to the needs of the people, that going forward, the people are supreme. And the people are here to stay. I don't think using violence is going to change the voice of the people.
All right, and of course, we've seen attacks to the factions who oppose the government. We've actually seen the rallies of the likes of Rigathi Gachagua and the United Opposition at large. We've seen attacks at ACK with Timachat, that is in Nyeri County. We've actually seen the attacks in Kitengela. We've seen attacks in Kakamega, where the Ulinda Mwananchi faction were holding rallies. Now, one would ask the question: does this, pose a national security threat to, the political freedoms of our parties? And one would then ask the question again: who is sending these police officers? Is it politically motivated?
Now, I want to say this: that I think the times when you would stop ideas because you have stopped the people, the leaders who propagate those ideas, that time is gone. I think our democracy has matured. Our democracy has matured to the extent where it's not the leaders who are the purveyors of ideas. The ideas are now properly within the people. The people are the ones who are purveying ideas. And like they say, I think the time for change, not necessarily the change of faces of leaders, but the change in terms of how we are going to lead our people. I think that time has come. And I think it behoves upon leaders and anybody who thinks that they can become leaders to begin to listen to the people. Democracy is about the rule of law. The democracy is about institutions. I think what we are having today is a group of people who are saying that we need to strengthen our institutions. We need to strengthen the rule of law. We need to strengthen the voice of the people. We need to strengthen transparency. And there are people who are saying we don't have to do that. We can still achieve our goals without listening to the people. We can still achieve our goals without following the law. I think it is the people who will decide where this is going to go. The people have to stand firm and tell their leaders that, look here, we know where it is that we want to go. And if you want to go with us there, you are welcome. But if you don't, we are going to go there nonetheless. I think leaders today, if they're not careful, a new crop of leaders is going to emerge that speaks the voice of the people, that understands the vision of the people. Our leaders today seem to assume that they can create their own vision, create their own Singapore, and then take the people there. If there's Singapore, the people are going to decide which Singapore they want to go to and how they want to go there. And one thing that is clear is that we can't go to any of these visions unless we grow strong institutions.
All right. And looking back during the by-elections, the campaigns, we actually saw in Berenot where, Leo Mudende Karish, it was actually a highly contested seat, the member of parliament seat. And one would argue that, now when these leaders are actually campaigning, they're not campaigning in regards to, the ideologies, what they'll do to the Mwananchi. Now, one would then ask the question, has the perspective of leaders selling the ideologies to the people shifted? Because we saw in Berenot, the DP, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki, was actually campaigning for Leo Mudende for nearly a week, if not more. Now, one would then ask the question, and of course, on the DCP party, we actually saw Rigiji saying that, vote for this is our person. Now, has this actually changed from the ideologies of the Mwananchi? Has the narrative actually changed?
I think, like I've said when we began this show, is that I think our leaders are stuck in the past. Our leaders are being guided by a template that has long shifted. The people have quickly realized that. And like we keep on saying, politics is local. I think wananchi now need to begin electing people, and I think they've begun to show that. Now we need to begin to elect leaders that speak their language, leaders that speak about the needs of wananchi and how wananchi needs to go there. I think what we need to do today is that we need to re-educate our leaders. As a leader, you don't go there to take people somewhere. People have decided where it is that they want to go. What they are shopping for is a person who can mobilize their strength, a person who can organize their resources to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. Today, leaders cannot lie to us that they're bringing for us development. The Constitution 2010 changed all that. Today, what we need are leaders who can come to us. I think in 2027, we will be listening to candidates who are telling us that I know where it is that you want to go. My role here is to come and help you to get there. This story of leaders coming up with their own manifestos, these stories of leaders coming and promising us roads, promising us schools, promising us bridges are not going to work anymore, because people know that development comes from them. Development comes from the taxes of the people. What people now need are leaders who can mobilize people, leaders who can bring us together to achieve our goals. We have the resources, we have the wherewithal. What we need is somebody who can take us there. I think the leaders that we should be electing in 2027 come the elections are leaders who can organize us, leaders who can mobilize us, not leaders who come and rob us.
All right, we're speaking about manifestos and building bridges and what about now. I wanted to ask the question. President Ruto, when he came to power, he actually came with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, where the Mama Mboga and border riders were actually were the currency to be traded for the votes come 2022. Now, I wanted to ask the question: is this government actually being judged too harshly, or are we looking at or has it failed to meet the expectations that it set for itself?
I want to give one credit to President Ruto and his team that in 2022 they spoke the language of the people. But as I do that is to caution the people that listen very carefully. Not everybody who speaks your language is for you. That in fact, there are many people out there who are in sheepskin, but they indeed are foxes. What Mwananchi needs to do, Mwananchi needs to educate himself or herself about what his or her role are. Mwananchi needs to re-educate themselves about what leadership is all about, so that they are not lied to by people who come with house-sounding nothings, people who promise us Singapore, people who promise us Canaan, when too surely they know we can't get there. What wananchi need to do now is indeed, and that's what elections are for, to differentiate good people from bad people, to differentiate leaders for us and leaders for themselves. For too long a time, leaders have been leaders for themselves. Leaders have had their own ideologies. Leaders have had their own manifestos, not for the people, but for themselves. But they have learned how to climb on the shoulders of the people for their own benefits and quickly throw away the people once they get to the top. I think wananchi have now realized that they won't be used as ladders for personal goals. Wananchi have now realized that they now know the kind of leaders that they want. What we need are not people who speak promises to us. We don't even want promises. We know what we want. We want now people who can come and tell us, this is how we plan to get there. In 2022, we were sold the story of the hustler. Unfortunately, we never asked how. We were told where to go. We never asked how to get there. This time round, wananchi have to be very clear and ask, how are we getting where we are going.
All right, you've actually said that no one speaks your languages for you. But then again, when it is time for the campaigns, the campaign trails, you see, especially women and who go to these particular rallies and they're given 1 kg of beans, 1 kg of flour, and some of them are even given money. So can we get over this, this kind of campaigns where the politician comes and gives you money in exchange for your vote?
The issue, sometimes people argue that the issue of poverty is what enables leaders to lord over the people. I don't think it's an issue of poverty. After all, if you're given 200 or 500 or even 1,000, it doesn't dent your poverty.
Yeah.
And so I think the problem is not about people receiving money. If the idiots who want to dish out money, let the people take the money. But let the people know what it is that they want. Let the people, and I think for us the problem has been that the people have set the bar too low. The people have allowed an idiot who thinks, who dreams of leading the people to actually run for MP or for MCA or for president and actually vote for them. I think time has come for people to tell others, for people to tell those who can't lead, by showing them the ballot, by saying, look here, we know where it is that we want to go, and we know you can't take us there. I think people should run away from assuming that some benevolent leader is going to come and take them where they want to go. I think it has come a time where the people, and now there are many young people who make up probably more than almost 2/3 of the population, of the voters come 2027, they need to know what their problems are. And they need to know who is not only speaking their language, but who is speaking a feasible language, who is making promises that actually can be implemented, who is not only speaking the language of the people, but who is willing to work with the people to claim the vision that the people want to achieve. Like it is said, people get the leaders they deserve. If the people keep setting the bar too low, as we have done for a long time, we'll keep getting the riffraff that we've been getting all along. But if the people now know, and I want to think that we've moved closer to that than before, if the people now know where it is they want to go, people are able to look at all who offer the candidature, and they're able to identify a person, not a person who speaks your language of mother tongue, not a person who comes from your geography, but a person who understands, who speaks the language of your development needs, a person who can solve your day-to-day needs, a person who understands what it is that you're going through on a day-to-day basis, and therefore who can help lessen the burdens that you have. I think it behoves again upon people. I think I've stopped blaming bad leaders. I'm now asking us to be true citizens. Citizens who not only know what their needs are, but citizens who know what their responsibility is. And as a citizens, what our responsibility is to elect leaders who can take us to the vision that we want to achieve.
Fair enough. And in 2024, we actually saw the uprising of the Gen Z in June 25th, where they actually stood up and opposed the Finance Bill 2024. We actually saw that being reciprocated in 2025, for the better part of 2025 June, of course, the Saba that is in July. Now, we've seen, this notion of Human to it. We actually saw, some leaders calling themselves a kingpin of this particular region. We saw, not mentioning names, people actually saying that, I want to be in government for the benefit of my people. Now, one would ask the question, are we tired? Because when the Gen Z actually came up, they actually said that we are leaderless, we are tribeless. Are we tired of, this old leadership?
That the people are tired of old leadership can be seen in the phrase, Sisi ni Sifuna. That phrase does not speak about Sifuna as a person. That phrase speaks about the importance of the people. That phrase speaks to the point that eventually, at long last, the people know where they stand. At long last, the people know where they are going. In other words, they are telling whoever that wants to listen that, look here, you can take this one away. You can even take the next one away, but you cannot take away the voice of the people. That eventually the people know where it is that they want to go. And the people are going to get there. I think what we need, and I think, going back to a question about the Gen Z uprising, many people have told me that Gen Z failed. They did not fail. The Gen Z had a very big success. And what's the success that Gen Z had? The success of the Gen Z was a rethink of the people, a rethink of what is possible. But more importantly, they put fear in the eyes and voices of the leaders. The leaders now realize that the people are powerful. The people can achieve almost whatever it is that they want to achieve. I think it is Peter Nyama who said that all dreams are valid. I think Gen Z realized from that uprising that indeed their dreams are valid. Maybe they were not very well prepared in 2024. I want to think that in 2027 they will be prepared. They have learned, they have gained experience, they know where they want to go. Anyone who thinks that the people do not know, ole kwake, the people know, and the voice of the people is the voice of God.
All right. And, when the government actually came to power, each and every government which have seen actually comes in power and says that we found this government in debt crisis. And I wanted to ask the question, are we overtaxed in the name of repaying debts?
You see, when I hear leaders come to power and then say, we came and found empty coffers, what did they expect? Did they know the job at hand before they applied for the job? You can't apply, you can't read an advert in the papers. And it says the leader that we need. And you make an application. And then you're given the job. And then you tell us, I can't do this job. It shows that leaders who aspire for leadership have no idea what to do beyond getting into leadership. I think in terms of taxation, people are never overtaxed or undertaxed. That becomes an eventuality. Taxation is for provision of services. In our case, we can argue that the people are overtaxed because we don't see the services that are supposed to be provided. Instead, we find, like in this case, we find a government which, when it wants to implement services, again it comes back to raid our payslips. It comes back to raid our purchasing power by increasing taxes in terms of commodities, by increasing taxes in terms of pay as you add. I think what we need, and people have to be clear about this, we need basic services. We need healthcare. We need education. We need infrastructure. If you offer yourself to come and help us to achieve these goals, then we must understand how much it is that we get and how it is that we can live within our means but achieve the goals that we want to achieve. We don't want you to come with lofty promises and only for you to come and raid our payslips and then not achieve the goals that we want. We don't want leaders who come with manifestos. We want leaders who come on the ground and ask people, what is it that you want us to work together to achieve? Once you do that, the resources to achieve our goals are available. What is not available are resources for leaders to steal. What we've had for a long time are leaders who steal our development resources and then turn around and then tell us we don't have resources for development. This is a rich country. But however rich you are, we can't be rich enough for leaders' greed. What we have are leaders who are greedy. Leaders who want to achieve their goals before they achieve the goals of the people. What we want now are wananchi telling leaders, telling anyone who aspires for that position that we have resources to achieve our goals, but we don't have resources for your theft. And anybody, our rule of law should be put into place so that anybody and leaders who steal our resources for their own personal gains are punished for it. But going forward, we have resources enough to make us achieve our goals. We have resources to get us to Singapore if we want to go there. We have resources to get us to Canaan if we want to go there. The question is, do we have drivers who can drive these vehicles to Canaan? Do we have them?
Right,
and the people have to choose these drivers carefully.
Fair enough. Now, when President William Ruto actually withdrew the 2024 finance bill due to the uprising, I wanted to ask the question then, did that actually mark a listening government or a forced to retreat government?
At first I had hoped that leadership had listened. Unfortunately, over time, leadership did not listen. Leadership dug in. Leadership then decided, how else can we overcome the people? Leaders don't say, my people, what are you saying? I'm here to listen. Leadership retreated. Leadership retreated and regrouped and found new ways of how to overrun the people. And unfortunately, leadership has bragged about it. We've been told how everything that the Gen Z fought against in 2024, how all that has been returned through the back door. Fortunately, these leaders have a destiny with us in 2027. Those who don't speak our language, or those who speak our language in vain, I think the people will have destiny with them. And the people will find out now exactly who are the people's leaders and who are leaders for themselves.
Right, and of course, in regards to the finance bill, we actually saw people who voted yes, the members of parliament. We actually saw members of parliament voted yes to the bill. But when President William Ruto denied to assent that particular bill, the same MPs were actually lauding the president for not signing, for not assenting this particular bill. Now, what does that show us? Are we electing these leaders, because when these leaders actually come for campaigns, they seek sympathy from the people. But when they get in these particular offices, they become, so to speak, employees of the government.
You see, our members of parliament, our democracy is built around the people. But because each and everyone cannot make decisions, our democracy then is built on representation of the people. Members of parliament are representatives of the people.
Correct.
And we have a very simple job, to go to parliament and make rules, to go to parliament and make policies. Unfortunately, our members of parliament have no idea what their job is. Unfortunately, our members of parliament assume that they go to parliament to bring development. It is not their work to bring development. I've heard members of parliament saying, I'm working with the government so that I can bring development. No. Development is clearly defined in our constitution. How development is implemented is clearly defined in our constitution. The work of our MPs is to go to parliament and ensure, represent the voice of the people and ensure that the rule of law is followed. Ensure that the executive does what the people want. The executive does not run roughshod of the people. Unfortunately, like you've said, we have members of parliament who, instead of representing the people, they represent the executive. You heard many of them tell President Ruto, we voted for you. Why are you now turning against us? Who are they voting for? And I think it's time, like I've said again and again, for people, for citizens to realize that for a long time they have sent employees to work who have no idea what their job description is. I think in 2027, the people have to remind the leaders what the job description is. Unfortunately, also, as employers, because that's what the citizens are, we have been employing people incongruent with the job description. I think 2027 is an opportunity for us to right all the wrongs we've made since 1963. To now put the right people in the right positions. That those who cannot represent the voice of the people in the National Assembly, those people should be taken home. We need people who understand the problems of the people, and we need people who can speak the voice of the people against the executive, not handmaids of the executive.
All right. And in regards to the 2024 protest, actually, the KNSCHR reports at least 82 abductions linked to the activism since mid-2024. And we actually saw police excesses in 2024 and the better part of 2025 during the protest against the killing of Alberto Juang in Central Police Station. Now, why would we ask the question, are we witnessing a dangerous reform to the authoritarian tactics?
The leadership in Africa is largely authoritarian. Leaders, any individuals who access power are bound to be authoritarian. The only safeguard of the people against authoritarian leaders is the people themselves. And I think Kenyans have spoken for times without number that going forward, they won't stand for authoritarian leadership. They will stand for the rule of law. They will stand for democracy. They will stand for constitutionalism. They will stand for strong institutions. I think what we need to do as a people is to learn that there is no leader, there is no any one leader who can come and be the safeguard of the people. The safeguard of the people are working institutions, working and independent institutions. And I think going forward, what we need is to strengthen our institutions, strengthen our IEBC, strengthen our parliament, strengthen the voice of the people, strengthen the rule of law. If those institutions are strengthened, then the machinations of individuals who want to access power without speaking the language of the people, who want to access power without having programs for the people, that can be stopped. But the people have to stand and guard their democracy. People have to stop selling their votes. People have to come out and register. People have to come out and vote. People have to come out and participate in public participation when they're called upon. Our people assume that their duty is to go out and vote on election day and then retreat for 5 years. Democracy lives every day. Your role as a citizen is supposed to be implemented each and every day. Laws don't implement themselves. Laws are implemented by the actions of the people, by the actions of institutions. I think what we need for a long time, citizens have been absentee citizens. We need citizens who are present, citizens who know what they want, citizens who are ready to speak up when wrong is done. When members of citizens are doing that, then democracy will work.
Well, I spoke about our institutions being independent, and one would then ask the question: we've seen excesses of police. The case of Boniface Mwangi, Boniface Kariuki, I beg your pardon, who was actually shot, the mask vendor, and you can actually see that police officer's face. Now, I want to ask the question: we've seen no single police officer charged because of these particular excesses. Now, I would then ask the question: are these institutions like the judiciary has the government captured, these particular institutions?
You see, institutions are for the people. And people who man these institutions are just individuals. They don't have the powers to strengthen the institutions. The people who have the powers to strengthen institutions are the people. I think for a long time, we need to let our judicial officers know that the people are with you. I think sometimes our judicial officers are on their own. I think our parliament is supposed to strengthen the institution of the judiciary. Just like judiciary is supposed to strengthen the institution of parliament. And vice versa. We have 3 arms of government. Arms that are independent but also interdependent. Arms that check each other, but also arms that strengthen each other. Unfortunately, we have institutions that too often give leeway to the executive. And I think the people need to speak out. And the people can speak out through many avenues. Through people themselves, through their members of parliament. And if members of parliament are not able to speak, people can speak directly. But I think what we need is that we need our judicial officers to know that they have the backing of the people. We need our members of parliament to know that the people are on their side. They are the voice of the people. We need our members of parliament really to rethink why they are in parliament. And if they know that they can't speak the voice of the people, surely to stop offering themselves to lead the people. Parliament is about representing the people. Parliament is about keeping the executive in check. Parliament is not about sleeping with the executive. Unfortunately, our members of parliament think that when we become a member of parliament, the next thing we should do is to go and visit the president in State House. That is not the duty of the member of parliament. And I think our citizens, constituents, have a clause in the constitution to recall any members of parliament who are voted to go to parliament and don't do the job they were sent to parliament to do. I think it's high time that the people began breathing life into the constitution and recalling members of parliament who go to parliament and forget why they went to parliament.
All right, Prof, even as we wind up, when President William Ruto actually brought the opposition figures into government, where, he gave them jobs, the CSS jobs, did that show, statesmanship or political, or is it a tactic for political survival? And of course, the NEC attempts to ask the SG, that is Edwin Sifuna, is this party discipline or what one may call a factional purge?
You see, unfortunately, Machiavelli didn't live in our times. Yeah. But I think our leaders have been very good students of Machiavelli. And they want power, and they get power, and they hoodwink our people, they hoodwink Kenyans that they're accessing power for the sake of the people. Unfortunately, they get this power for their own sake. Now, on paper, bringing on board, and I want to correct when people say the opposition was brought into government. You see, every member of parliament, even members of parliament who are voted in on UDA, they are members of parliament to check the executive. I don't understand members of parliament who think they are government. Government is the executive. The duty of members of parliament is the voice of the people to keep the executive in check. And the reason why we've continued to have the problems we have is that we have got members of parliament who do not understand their role. The role of a member of parliament is to represent the people, to keep government in check. You can't keep government in check when you think you are government. Members of parliament, irrespective of which party they were voted for, are not government. Government is the executive. That's what the president says, my government. It means that the mistake that they make in government can be put on the shoes of the president. That the president is accountable to the people. The president is accountable to the people through parliament. Now, when parliament thinks they are government, then who is government accountable to? And so, when the president brought on board the last one, Mbadi, the last one, the people he brought on board, he was playing survival politics. It was not for the people. If indeed he was doing that for the people, why did he go and pick the many Kenyans across this country? He could have gone elsewhere and picked Kenyans to serve their fellow Kenyans. What the president was hoping was that he can curtail ODM, because he identified ODM as his biggest challenger to his power, and he assumed it. I think for me, my thinking and seeing how the faction of Oburu Odinga is speaking, I think the president had a long plan of how he can bring on board ODM to run for presidency in 2027. I think what we need to tell the president, and the president has, as any other politician, has a right to bring on board whoever he wants to bring on board. We need to tell the president that if it is not for the people, then he does it in vain. That the people know what it is that they want. And ODM is not the party. ODM is the people. ODM is the ideology. And ODM was built on the ideology that the people are supreme. If he brings on board people who don't think that the people are supreme, then he does all that in vain. I think if I was to advise the president, I would tell him, go and speak to the people. They have the winning card in 2027. But if you run against the people, then you become a one-term. If indeed he wants to become a two-term, let him have the people on his side. No one can stop him with the people on his side.
All right, Professor Edwin Wanjawa, even as you wind up, well, how would you rate this particular government on a scale of 10?
This government, because I will look at government in terms of the manifesto, in terms of the bar they themselves set. And what bar did they set? They said, this is a bottom-up government.
Yeah.
That this government is a government of Mama Mboga. That this government is government of Boda Boda. That this government is the government of the common mananchi. They told us that never again will the dynasties run roughshod over the people. Unfortunately, in the last 3 years, the situation of the Boda Boda hasn't improved.
All right.
Probably it's gone worse.
Yeah.
The situation of Mama Mboga hasn't improved. In fact, we've become a government of dynasty instead of government of the people. If I trade this government, honestly, this government will get a supplementary.
Right.
We have to sit this exam.
Of course, the people will have to decide come 2047 because they say also sovereign powers belongs to the people.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Edwin Wanjawa, for that particular insight. Of course, we had a lot to talk about, including the IBC, 163.9 million Kenya shillings, but the Treasury says that they're offering 43 billion Kenya shillings, which they say is enough. So who's right? Let's keep the conversation going on our socials at TBN TV Kenya. We were live on our Facebook and as well as on YouTube. And just in case you missed out on this particular conversation, you can actually get that on Facebook at EBN TV Kenya. My name is Martin Masharia. Thank you so much for being part of this particular program. We've been watching The Insight, where we were taking a look at the state of the nation, even as we head to 2027 general election. I was joined by Professor Edwin Wanjawa, who's a lecturer at PWANI University. Thank you so much for, of course, making time to be with us here on the program, and of course, on behalf of the entire team that made this particular program a success. Nasema asante sana. God bless you, and let's do this again when God says we do.